I want to share with you a few thoughts about some fears that narcissists exploit in others. Why? For a simple reason is we have some recurring fears that all of us have, and some of us have more than others. And if we understand what the fears are, we can observe how narcissists will hack into each of these fears in order to exploit them as much as possible. And of course, when they can exploit our fears, they control us. Fear is one of the 7 universal emotions that Paul Ekman was talking about, and it's one of the main ones that keeps us alive. The other ones are anger, also anger, sadness. Disgust is helpful to keep us alive, but fear is especially helpful. And fear is there to to help us avoid both physical threats and also threats of social rejection. And the fear response is one of the most instinctive ones, because if we think we're going to die, the body puts itself in auto-protect mode. And when you go into auto-protect mode, quite simply, we sort of lose control. That's when there's loud noise and we jump up. We will react all of a sudden. It is to help us survive. When we are trying to survive, the brain shuts down because the goal is to survive for as long as possible, basically, until we hopefully die of old age. Now, narcissists are incredibly good at manipulating people using multiple tactics. And if we use a rather interesting psychometrics model called DISC, and this is similar to one that I use with Lumina, and I'll be telling you much more about Lumina, which I think is one of the best models that I've come across. If we use this, we can identify 4 fears that narcissists exploit, and I'd like to run you through the reasoning here. Basically, in the Lumina model, we are talking about different archetypes of personality. And the archetypes, what we mean by this, it's sort of general traits that people have. This, by the way, was created by Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, then was popularized by William Marston, an American psychologist who also created Wonder Woman, and recently has been popularized in the books Surrounded by Idiots, Surrounded by Narcissists, Surrounded by Psychopaths, on all of that series by Thomas Erickson. And I highly recommend you read Surrounded by Narcissists and Surrounded by Psychopaths, and also the Surrounded by Idiots is pretty good. The idea with this model is that we have 4 main ways of behaving. The first one, the red one, is the dominant one. I just write the first letter D for dominant, and you see it with the color. This one is the type of way of behaving we have when people are straight to the point. They may be a bit abrupt. They go, listen, this is not really good. I just want to say things as they are. Don't take it personally. I just want to give you things as they are. Sometimes these people are conflated with being narcissists because they can lack empathy. It doesn't mean they are. And this is one of the reasons why it's really important to use nuance, because we might say this person is a bit abrupt. It means they're a narcissist. No, it doesn't. It simply means they are a bit abrupt. Anyway, first type, this is the dominant type, or outcome-focused type, the one that might be a little bit more pushy or considerably more pushy than others. First one, D. The second one is the I type. I for influence or big picture. These are people who like to think, who like concepts, who like bouncing ideas, who like to figure out, what are we trying to do? Let's figure out what we're trying to do, make sure things work out with the big picture. The outcome focused will be saying, let's make sure we get to the top of the mountain. The I people, the big picture people, will be thinking, let's make sure we've picked the right mountain and we've picked the right route to get there. The red people are more likely to say, come on, let's just put in more effort. And the I people are more likely to say, well, maybe if we did things a little bit smarter, we'd be able to get there with less effort, and that could make sense. Then we have the green people, the people-focused people, S for stability. These are the people who will typically be paying more attention to the group to make sure everyone is okay, that no one is left behind, to make sure that people are feeling comfortable and happy. These are the people who will be saying, well, you might be right with getting to the top of the mountain, but how about you ask everyone for their opinion, just to make sure everyone is feeling okay and is feeling on board. These are the people-focused. Then the last one is the C, the compliance. These think more of data-driven, data-focused, people who are down to earth, who want to get the facts right, the procedure right. These are the people who be saying, you want to get to the top of the mountain, you're wearing the wrong shoes. You're wearing flip-flops. You need real boots. Or last time we went up, something went wrong. Your plan didn't work out. Has everyone packed the bags for the picnics? Do we have enough food? These are people who are much more down to earth, much more making sure that everything is working out properly. Now, when we talk about this, you might say, that's too simplistic. I'm not one or the other. I'm a bit of all of them. Yes, obviously, we are all a bit of all of these. The two approaches, one approach to this is to say, is to be type-based. Type-based would say that you are either one or the other. You are either a red or a green, or maybe you are dominant red, and then you have your second color is yellow, or your dominant is green, and your second color is blue. I think it's much more helpful to think on a scale between 0 to 10 or 0 to 3, and this might be an interesting exercise for you to do, is to say from 0 to 3, how much exactly do you have? You might be having, let's say, 1 out of 3 of green. So 0 would be none, 1 would be a bit, 2 would be like a regular amount, and 3 would be a lot. Then you can do the same thing for the other colors, and using this kind of diagram, you can get some kind of indication of where someone is at when it comes to different colors. And you can, of course, have 2 colors that are roughly identical in how much you have them. Incidentally, I highly, highly recommend you look up a tool, an app called Lumina Splash. Lumina Splash is a free tool that gives you an estimation of the rating you'd have with these 4 colors and 4 intermediary colors. So, for example, between red and yellow, you have the extroverts, and between the green and the blue, you have the introverts. Between the red and the blue, you have the people who follow processes, who are more structured, and between the green and the yellow, you've got the people who are more flexible, more inspiration-driven, the people who are more likely to go with the flow and adapt course. Lumina Splash is a tool I highly recommend. I use it. We'll be talking more about it on the channel. Okay. Now, when it comes to these 4 colors, remember that, so we all have some of them. Now, when it comes to the dominants, about 10% of the population has a dominant red, dominance. That's the main color they have. And the other colors are roughly, and it's not exactly this, but it's roughly 1/3 each. So there's a certain probability that you have one of these as a dominant. Bearing in mind, we all have some of each of them. The likelihood that you have exactly 0% red is incredibly low. That means you'd be 1 in 1,000, even if you'd only rank at 5%. In other words, if we took 100 people, you'd only have 4 people who had less than you and 95 people, or 94 people who'd have more than you. That still is more than none. And it's important to bear this in mind. So how did this translate into narcissism? Well, each of these has a specific fear. And I'm going to share with you what those fears are. And we'll see together if this is something that you've noticed that narcissists like to exploit. The biggest fear of the dominant people is that other people take advantage of them. And this can translate when narcissists will start by pointing things out, such as, your friend, it's a bit of a free rider, isn't he? Your family, are they really supporting you? I mean, you give them a lot, and they don't necessarily give a lot in return. Remember, we all have some fear of being taken advantage of. But the thing is that the fears can sort of play off each other. And I'm going to show you how this works. First of all, the fears. So first fear, being taken advantage of. Second fear, the yellow one, the inspiration one, is the fear of rejection. We like to be accepted for our ideas and for our contributions. And if people reject us or people reject our ideas, it can often feel like it's the same thing. And that can be incredibly painful. For the people-focused group, the biggest fear is the fear of conflict. Green people want stability. That's what the S stands for, stability. Conflict means instability. Green people, green dominant people, are more likely to be willing to give up whatever advantages they have, they're more willing to allow people to take advantage of them, provided that it doesn't lead to conflict. They can be just petrified by this, by the whole notion of conflict. And then finally, the C people, compliance people, the blue people, the biggest fear is making mistakes and being called out or being criticized. That's the two, criticize, there we go, criticized. Those are the two parts. You make a mistake, you're criticized, you did something wrong, you let people down. And what you can see here is that we have different fears between the different groups. So different fears between the different groups, and we have some that scare us more than others. So for example, with this portrait that I made, basic portrait, the person has more of a fear of conflict and of making mistakes and being criticized than they do of rejection or being taken advantage of them. This is something narcissists will take advantage of. Typically what they're going to do is they're going to play on all of those fears, figure out which ones you fear the most, and double down on those. Now imagine something like, so the story I mentioned in the last live stream when I was talking about music with someone, so I was thinking about music and bands and formulating a point of view, this person attacked me. So first of all, attacked my thinking. This was the rejection of me, rejection of the thoughts, and it was a personal ad hominem attack. You're in no position to say this. You're not a professional musician. You're not qualified to do this. I was willing to ramp up the conflict up to a certain point because I was defending my idea. So my green side was less strong than the yellow side. But when it became personal, I shut down. I was not willing to have this level of conflict. Why? Well, maybe because the green people, the people that focused people, realize we can tear each other apart as a group. But the goal isn't to self-destruct inside a group. We're stronger when we are a group. If we're fighting each other, fighting amongst ourselves, just imagine if we're a tribe living as cave people with 50 people and there's an internal battle, what are we going to do? We split into two groups? We're not going to be as strong being 25 each as we are being 50. And if there's infighting and we split and there are only 20 in each group because 10 of us died, that's a catastrophe. We need some level of stability, even if it means swallowing the ego. This person was also criticizing me for having made mistakes in the thinking, and yet just criticizing my thinking, but also attacking me personally. And the irony there was that she was getting invited, so it was the sister of the person I was dating back then, was getting invited for this concert, wasn't paying for the gas, wasn't paying for the hotel room. So despite being significantly older and significantly wealthier, but that was the way that I processed this at the time. Now, imagine what it's like when someone goes through all of these different fears, starts trying to make you doubt your friends and your family, your loved ones. They're taking advantage of you a bit. That's not very pleasant. And if you think, I trust this person, so maybe they have a point, maybe there is something, that is going to lead to more isolation. And then thinking, well, this person's got my back, so, at least we're on the same team, right? Wrong. Then you're going to be more isolated, and they're going to start attacking you, rejecting you, criticizing parts of you, which then lead to rejection. It's not just you made a mistake, it's, you're not the person I thought you were. I thought we were building something up. You're falling a bit short, and there's someone more attractive over there. That taps into the yellow fear, the big picture thinking fear. That's the yellow part. And then they're going to dial up their level of conflict. We can tolerate some level of conflict. Some people are just allergic to it. Most of us can stand some level, but there's a difference between having conflict because we are working through ideas that are important, but doing it respectfully. So we might have a disagreement and we might let the ideas wrestle, but the moment I start attacking you as a person, the moment I attack your integrity, the moment I attack your background, immutable characteristics, that becomes ugly conflict. I'm basically saying, I no longer see you as a human being. I've unpersoned you. If I attack you, let's say you want to make a comment about something about men, and I go, you're a woman. What do you know? Shut up. Shut your mouth. Otherwise, I'm going to attack you and rip you apart. That's a horrible thing to do. We're humans. Of course, you've got an opinion on that. Of course. And we can share it. And if I think it's ill-informed, we'll share points of view. I don't start assuming I will be attacking you as a person, because that's dehumanizing you, unpersoning you. That's exactly what people did before they led them to concentration camps. That level of conflict is terrifying. So when people are afraid of conflict, and we dig into this, it's easy for them to retreat, and then they put up with pretty much anything, and easy to bully them. Remember also, too much fear of conflict isn't healthy. Too much appetite for conflict isn't healthy. We need to be able to have some level of conflict, but there are two types of conflict. There's a healthy conflict where we respect each other, and the unhealthy conflict where you become a target. And that is a world of difference. And now when it comes to the mistakes and being criticized, this is a terrible one, because the blue dominant people tend to be more of perfectionists. They tend to be thinking, if I don't get things 100% right, it's a catastrophe. And often they don't see a difference between 99% right, 98% right, and 8% right. And obviously, it's difficult to make 100%. Obviously, closer to 100 is better. However, there is a difference between 8% and 42%, 97% and 99%. This is one of the big notions, is better with the R, better, is something that helps us improve. Obviously, we're not perfect. But if we've been conditioned to think that perfection is attainable and we're afraid of not being good enough, just imagine how easy it is for narcissists to identify this and dig in and criticize and say, you're cooking. I don't know what's wrong. I used to like it, but it's no longer quite that good. What's happening? What's wrong with you? You start making mistakes. And then when I start doing this, you start doubting yourself and you make another mistake. And you keep making these mistakes. I don't know what's wrong. I'm just sharing feedback. That seems very, very reasonable. But you keep doing these mistakes. I don't know what to think. And the more paranoid we get, the more mistakes we can make. And then if you get a little bit defensive, then maybe I'm going to dial up the conflict, but you're already a little bit shaken. And then I point out, someone else is taking advantage of you, and then get your attention away to look in another direction so I can double down. And then I can suggest that maybe I am going to reject you after all, because maybe you're just not good enough because of the mistakes you made. And if you're not happy, then we can fight about this, but I'll be making personal attacks on you, which is something that you hate. And then I keep telling you, but someone else is taking advantage. I'm on your side, but you're not good enough anymore. You see how narcissists can actually use all four of these to whack people left, right, and center nonstop and make them lose. And make them lose it. And even if someone is only a one out of three of the dominant, the red, even that attack on someone's trying to take advantage of you, even that will have an effect in reducing the person's confidence. And that's what the goal of all of this is. Now, on a slightly brighter side, let's see what we can do in order to try to reframe. So, take the 4 fears. First of all, people taking advantage of you. Maybe this is the case. However, we can only know that for sure if the other person is a telepath. What does it mean taking advantage? It means we have a win-lose mindset. And some people do have a win-lose mindset. Most people don't. Most people simply try to get by, and they're not going to be thinking, I want to take advantage of this person. They're more centered on themselves. And if somebody points out, what you did wasn't very nice, a number of people will be concerned and will be thinking, I suppose I could have done better. And remember, it often goes back to when push comes to shove, what is the person's main goal? Is the person's main goal to take as much for themselves as possible, or is it to sort of find a situation that is good for everyone? It's always the When push comes to shove, what do? The dominant, the red people, yes, they don't want people to take advantage of them. And at the same time, they don't want to be completely selfish idiots either. So they understand there's some level of balance. If we can reduce the fear, it's easier for them to say, or it's easier to make them see the point of view of, it's important you get what you deserve, and it's also important not to leave other people out. This is balancing a bit with the green side, the empathy, the people-oriented side, the empathy, the people focus. And we can use logic, and especially the red people are very good with logic. Use logic to say, if you don't have people on board with you, what do you think is going to happen? Well, you're likely to lose them. If that's what you want, go ahead and knock yourself out. But if that is not your goal, we need to rebalance a little bit. So that's the red part. Then when it comes to the rejection part, it's also important here to remember, so when we're afraid of the rejection, it's important to remember the person rejecting you is not a judge. The person rejecting you is just one person, and it's okay to be disliked by some people. It's okay to have some people think, disliked, you're not my cup of tea. It's okay. We don't need 1,000 people to like us. All we need is a small group of people who are friends, whom we respect, and with these people, for them to be saying, okay, we get along. Remember also that trying to please 1,000 people probably means that we're being inauthentic. If we can simply accept that we do our best and we don't look for conflict with others, and it's okay for us to be feeling comfortable and confident enough, then things tend to be all right. And also remember that some people out there, the people who love judging, those tend to be the toxic people, because healthy people just say, listen, it's just my opinion. I'm not trying to upset you. We don't get along, or we don't really have that much in common. Whatever the case might be, it's okay to not get along. Don't take it personally. When people try to make it personal, that is a sign that there's something toxic going on. Then, when it comes to the fear of conflict, it's important to remember that you have to learn to stand up for yourself to some extent. And it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to not give in. It's okay to not be a doormat. And if you don't learn to do this, you're delegating to others. And sometimes the thing to do is to think, I'm not willing to stand up for myself. However, if someone was doing this to someone else, would I be okay with it, or would I be willing to stand up for them? This is a weird thing. When people have a high level of green, is they typically love others more than themselves. They think, if I can make the tribe survive, it's okay, even if I sacrifice myself. On the one hand, that can be seen as beautiful. On the other hand, it's a rather poor mid to long-term strategy, also because you shouldn't need to sacrifice yourself for the others. And people who want you to sacrifice yourself, those are the toxic people. Remember, when people keep pushing the quote-unquote empath label, the empath label usually means a high level of people focus. Yes, it's okay to have the capacity to do it, and having too much when it goes to our own detriment is not good for us, and it's not good either for the people surrounding us, because it simply means that we're not taking care of ourselves. It's what they say in the airplanes. If you run out of oxygen, the first thing you need to do is to put the mask on yourself. That's the airplane oxygen. There we go. I think that's how you spell it. Oxygen mask. If you don't do that, you're a burden on others. And you don't want to be a burden on others. First and foremost, we need to take care of ourselves. If you go hiking with a group of people, you need to be carrying your backpack. Let them carry theirs. If you spend your time checking if everybody else is okay, at one point they'll say, listen, you're getting annoying. We can carry our own. Stop being condescending. You take care of yours. It's heavy enough. And let us take care of ours. That's also the image. Everyone has their cross. You carry your cross. I'll carry mine. And let's sort of encourage each other. But don't you dare try carrying my cross for me. It's not yours. It's mine. And if you try to carry it as being condescending. So So you keep yours and I keep mine, and it's fine. So some level of conflict is okay. And also remember, if people use conflict to make it personal and to attack you and to attack immutable characteristics and to attack your intentions and to assume that the worst possible explanation is the only acceptable interpretation, then that means that these people are ultra toxic and you can completely disqualify them. Remember, about 10% of the population is toxic, and it's not an overlap with the red ones. These are the toxic people that you find with all of the dominants. You've got a high level of toxicity with some of the people-focused people who are exploitative, and they hide it because they can dial up the green side very easily, but it's fake. So just remember this. If you have this vulnerability, people they'll smell it, they'll come to you because it's easy to take advantage of you, and you don't want to encourage this behavior, okay? That's the green part, people-focused part. Finally, the blue, the down-to-earth. Just remember that instead of perfection, try perfectibility. Perfectibility means that you try to go to 100%, but that is a destination. It's not something we actually expect of you. So if it's a destination, you will make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not even okay to make mistakes. It is necessary to make mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, that means that you have the arrogance of believing that you've created a system that allows you to do 100% of the time. That is arrogant. It's not realistic. If you're able to have a system that allows you to achieve a high percentage most of the time, it's amazing. And your system can be improved. And if you learn how to improve your system, you will take the quote-unquote mistakes, you will turn that into feedback so you can make your system even better. If you're able to do that, it's fantastic. And remember, when people come attacking you because of imperfections, that is not because they want you to succeed better. That instead is because they want you to fail. And when you realize that anyone is giving you any of this feedback in order to make you fail, or it feels like they want you to fail, remember that probably is their goal. If you're feeling bad, if you're feeling sick when people make comments towards you, if you got this bad feeling, maybe don't assume that these are well-intentioned people and you're just being too sensitive. Maybe consider also the possibility that these people want you to fail, want to hurt you, want to see you struggle because they like it. And remember, it's always a matter of when push comes to shove. You can tell a red person, an outcome-focused person, you're being too harsh, dial it down. And you observe what they do. Most of them, the healthy ones, will be willing to do that. Go, I didn't mean it that way, I'll dial it down. Okay. But you'll see the ones who give you a smirk and who will dial it up. People who do that are sadists and manipulative. If you tell someone that when you do this, I don't like it. When you do this, it hurts me. When you do this, it upsets me. Observe how they react. You have the people who attempt to improve things. And it can take time, because even with the best of intentions, we don't get things entirely right. But observe the people who give you a smirk. The smirk is the asymmetric look of contempt. And then they do it again. And they find excuses and they don't apologize. Well, it's a fake apology, saying, you know, I'm a bit clumsy. I remember one woman saying, I'm a doofus. It's like, no, you're worse than doofus. You're a horrible person lying to my face, doing this on purpose because you enjoy it, because you're a sadist. Use this model to observe which fears you have, to observe who's been exploiting those fears, to rationalize your fear, understand where it comes from, understand why it actually makes no sense. And if you need a therapist, work with a therapist to work on this. But especially if you have an open wound and someone keeps putting their finger into the wound, pay attention to what they're doing. You can ask them to stop once, but if they do it again, maybe don't assume that they actually want to stop. And maybe their goal is to make your wound bigger and bigger and bigger until finally you give up, they hurt you too much, and then probably they'll just move on to someone else that they can play with.